Hi, this is Ben Conklin.
And this is Ben Katzman.
This,
And this
is Ben Squared. So, we are wrapping up Super Bowl 51, I believe it is. Crazy game. Patriots, unbelievable comeback. I am in the group arguing that was the greatest Super Bowl that we've ever seen.
I think you can make a pretty convincing case for that, Conklin.
Better than the Bart Starr Super Bowls 1 and 2. Better than the terrible losses my Seattle Seahawks had in 2006 and in 2014. Although the 2014 game was admittedly a fantastic game. This was just an incredible game, Katzman. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think we saw a lot of things in the Super Bowl. I think we saw one of the greatest arguments you could make for Tom Brady being the GOAT. I think you saw genius Bill Belichick coaching. But I think you saw the Falcons blow it. What do you think, Conklin?
Yeah, no, definitely. The Falcons were a team that I really thought couldn't be stopped on offense. Their defense was looking much better. They were getting sacks. Dwight Freeney actually had a hell of a game, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
There was another guy, I don't remember his name, but he had like 3 sacks in the game.
Grady Jarrett.
Yeah. He's a Super Bowl record right there. He tied it. He didn't set it, but still an impressive showing. But something about the Patriots and their ability to come back and win, you just can't ever count the Patriots out. And
It's incredible.
It's unlike any team in the NFL in that they refuse to lose, except of course against my Seattle Seahawks, which they couldn't get it in on the 1-yard line. Which there's some irony in that, but we don't need to get into that because regular season. So, Catherine, which of these teams is most likely to play next year's Super Bowl? The Falcons or the Patriots?
Well, I think it's pretty hard to argue against the Patriots. But I will say this. The Falcons are going to bring back almost their entire contributing cast. Their only major free agent is the aforementioned Dwight Freeney. And he's probably coming back on a team-friendly deal, given his age. Now, with those facts in mind, and maybe a excellent stud first-round pick, because the Falcons have been drafting excellently the past couple of years, had a lot of rookie contributors on their defense and some very good second-year players as well. I mean, you saw Grady Jarrett emerge in the Super Bowl, right, Conklin?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So with such good young players and with another first, second, and third-round pick to boot, I think the Falcons have a great shot.
Yeah, no, definitely both teams have a great shot, but the Patriots have found a way to just dominate their division like really no other team. I mean, you've seen the statistics, I'm sure. They've won almost every division title. The Bills haven't had a single one in the past, ever since the realignment. It's very hard to say. And then the NFC South has really been a bit of a crapshoot lately. As much as the Falcons dominated this last year, I mean, the year before was the Panthers, who just killed everyone and ran the table, and the year before that, every team sucked, and the Panthers won at like 7-8-1. And then I believe the Saints were the year before that, or something like that. But it's just as much as we look back at history, it's going to be very hard to see if the Falcons really will be able to maintain that level of excellence. But I don't know. It's definitely going to be something to look out for next year. They're all both going to be Super Bowl contending teams. Captain, what's going on in the AFC? Just in general, for starters.
Well, obviously the Patriots are going to be the top dog. I mean, until Tom Brady retires or regresses. Speaking of, that's probably a good thing to talk about. Conklin, what do you think about Tom Brady's outlook for next season?
I think he'll be good for next year. The year after, we're not going to draft him in fantasy football here, nothing like that. But, going down the road, there are guys we've seen who have put up incredible numbers, Peyton Manning, i.e., and then all of a sudden they just shit the bed.
Huge
and it happens, and it's not a gradual thing. It's not, the numbers declined, he only threw 20 touchdowns and then like 5 interceptions. It's all of a sudden he looks terrible, and he's old, and he's rusty. And the team needs a new quarterback, and then they're throwing Trevor Siemian out there who doesn't even know what the fuck a spiral is. The Patriots should be on watch. I don't think they should get rid of Garoppolo. As much as we all like to be optimistic about how long Tom Brady's going to last, there's really no way that he's a 7 to 4 even year player. It's just not realistic.
And I think you saw signs this year as well. I mean, even in the Super Bowl, Tom Brady threw 62 passes, and Well, that's very impressive. Some of them were starting to get wobbly ducks. You saw the throw to Julian Edelman, the incredible catch that probably should have been intercepted. Brady made mistakes in that game, and he probably won the Patriots the game, but you saw signs of regression in there. And there were games this year, like the game against Conklin Seahawks, where Brady just looked old and didn't have the strength to make a lot of throws.
And especially that Super Bowl, we forget that first half through that pick six and through just some pretty awful open receivers, he just missed them. And while they were able to come back and win that game, and while they were able to do incredible things in that comeback, it's hard to say that was all him. I mean, the defense had the Falcons with 3 minutes left on the Patriots 25-yard line. Got the holding call, got the fumble, or not the fumble, but the sack, the incompletions. They were able to do what they needed to do to win that game that they would have lost otherwise.
Oh, yeah.
And then it didn't even give the Falcons any points after when they scored that touchdown in the third quarter. I mean, that team was on fire. They've been scoring points all season.
Really the only team to actually shut down the Falcons. I think that speaks to the Patriots' incredible accumulation of depth in the defense as well. I mean, they just find contributors out of nowhere. Like, look at Logan Ryan.
Patrick Chung.
Guys. Malcolm Butler is probably the best example of all of them.
Butler,
right?
sure.
It's incredible.
He got crossed up pretty hard on Taylor Gabriel, though.
Yeah, that was impressive.
Oh, we all saw that.
Oof.
But ended up not mattering because they won that game. Yeah. Either way, both teams, very good. I think that goes without saying. It'll be interesting to see what they do next year because I just can't wait to see a day when the Patriots have fallen back down to earth. Maybe Belichick's retired. Maybe not. Maybe Belichick is just not quite as good. Maybe Tom Brady retired. Or maybe Tom Brady's just not quite as good. Ideally, they're both just not as good, and we just get to watch them be bad. But just a day when, maybe the Dolphins get to win the AFC East. Or maybe, they just not, look at the Bills. The Bills won the AFC East. The Bills are going to the playoffs. Congrats to the Bills, who have not been to the playoffs, I believe, 20 years now? Forever. I mean, it's just like, the last time they went to the playoff, it was their fourth straight Super Bowl loss. Which, talk about, that's just, can't even imagine.
It's a tough franchise.
Can't even imagine being a Bills fan.
I think they made a step in the right direction by getting rid of Rex and Rob Ryan.
Yeah, you didn't like them?
I like them a lot. I think they're pretty bad football coaches. I think Rex Ryan really corrupted that team. I mean, you saw it last year when he was just throwing in such exotic blitzes. You see some coaches like their systems to be the stars, your Chip Kellys of the world. And you see more successful coaches want their players to be the stars. Like a Dan Quinn, who kind of releases his team and lets them, play how they're supposed to play. Caters to the strengths of his best players.
Right. Yeah, more of a pro style than Yeah, Rex Ryan, the guy's got a big personality, and I don't blame anyone for firing him because you're not looking for that type of distraction. You're not looking for that type of spotlight. I mean, hell, I don't even know. A guy like Samuel Watkins, you want that guy to get on track. You don't want to be at the middle of a controversy with anyone else. You need minimal distractions, I think, and Rex Ryan is just not your guy for that.
Very true.
So moving on to the draft, number 1 overall pick, Cleveland Browns. What do you got? Myles Garrett?
Myles Garrett, all the way. That guy is almost Von Miller out of the gate. Now, I think something to look for would be whether the Cleveland Browns want to trade back. I think there are a ton of franchises who are just dying to get a face-of-the-franchise player. Maybe the Chargers, fresh off a new move, want to get that guy who isn't necessarily Phillip Rivers to be opposite of Joey Bosa. I mean, I just think the Cleveland Browns have had a propensity to trade back in the first round recent years. I mean, you saw it happen last year. And statistically, second-round picks are more valuable than first-round picks.
Sure, yeah, weighted, yeah.
I think you see the Cleveland Browns brain trust look very seriously at trading back. But if they keep the pick, it'll be Myles Garrett.
I think it'd be very interesting for the Browns to pick Myles Garrett. Yeah, because, one of the things you don't see with a D-end as much as you see with a quarterback drafted first overall is if you don't have an offensive line, that quarterback is going to get hurt, possibly, and that quarterback is not going to play well or just nearly as well as they could. I never thought Jared Goff was anything special, but Jared Goff would look a lot better right now if he had, maybe Philadelphia's offensive line.
Or Dallas's offensive line.
Yeah,
I mean, look at Dak Prescott. I don't think Dak Prescott is a spectacularly talented player.
Not at all, no.
Definitely a good player, but I think you see a lot of the running game in his confidence.
The running game, and it's just the ability to have time in the pocket. But one of the nice things about drafting at the end overall, first overall, is that you don't have that same level of risk, I guess, with a quarterback because the D end isn't gonna, be facing as much pressure as a quarterback, and there's not as much of a likelihood for injury.
Oh yeah.
Sure, they get double teamed, I'm sure, on a lot of plays because who else do you got rushing the pass for Cleveland?
On the Browns? Well, I will say this: I think if they draft Myles Garrett, the Browns' front seven could be scary next year.
Who else do they have?
Well, they have Emmanuel Ogbah, second round absolute stud from Oklahoma State. They picked him in the second round last year. They have Danny Shelton eating up blocks in the middle.
Oh, Shelton's good.
Washington, am I right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I remember him.
They have Jamie Collins blitzing from the middle linebacker position.
Yeah, and they did. Yeah, they could form a
They could look pretty good next year.
No, I don't think the whole team will be very great, but I think you could get a good line. Yeah,
but the defense could play better, and I think you'll see that next year.
Yeah, maybe RG3, a little resurgence.
Maybe RG3 plays like he could.
There. I was on a Browns fan page, All Browns Nation, actually.
Scary place.
Those are some of the most optimistic people I have ever seen. They got like guys who'd be like third string starting safeties on other teams, and they're like, oh, look at this highlight reel, and look at that, and here's a great pass breakup of his. And it was just a very mediocre play for a very under mediocre team. Fans find a way to persist, so that's good for those guys. But wow, I would just, again, like the Bills, I would hate to be a Cleveland Browns fan.
Terrible. So moving on with the draft, Conklin, who do you think has the best chance to be the first quarterback off the board, and what is the team most likely to draft him?
It better be Deshaun Watson, and it better be, now that's a tough one because it depends on what the 49ers are going to do with Colin Kaepernick. I think if you don't have Colin Kaepernick, I think you are kind of put into a situation where you have to pick a quarterback, and that would be, in my opinion, Deshaun Watson.
You think he goes number 2 overall?
I think he could. It'd be almost like an Ezekiel Elliott last year, where people probably aren't. I haven't seen him on. Is he being put that high up on the draft boards?
Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, on the mock drafts.
Well, I will say this. The trendy pick for the first quarterback is Mitch Trubisky, maybe at number 3 to the Bears.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But I will say this. A lot of people were swayed by Deshaun Watson's championship game performance. I mean, that was just gutsy.
It was a very good game. It was a very great performance against an Alabama team that we all know is one of the best that we've ever seen out of Nick Saban. So.
Oh, yeah.
Just an incredible feat for them to come from behind like that and get that win. But I could see the 49ers taking Deshaun Watson, but at the same time, they might, they've got Kyle Shanahan now, who's going to be a great coach, it seems at least. And assuming they give him more than a year, which they better.
Oh, yeah.
They could really become a good team again. They just might want to start by building a different base, especially if they can keep Kaepernick. Because I like to give Kaepernick a lot of crap, but he, at the end of the day, isn't a terrible quarterback.
Not at all.
Got the ability to run, scramble in the pocket, big, tall, strong guy.
And look what he was doing with just awful receivers, essentially. I mean, his top targets were Jeremy Curley and Vance McDonald, which are, really just not NFL starters.
No, not at all. So I bet that they could make some noise next year.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
With a good draft, with a little bit of luck in the NFC West being a little bit worse.
Maybe Navarro Bowman gets healthy. That could be big.
Yeah, that poor guy. He's always getting hurt.
It's awful. So
now you go, Casman.
All right, I was gonna ping it back to you, Conklin. Give us a profile of the Seahawks draft strategy. What needs do they have? What players are gonna fill those needs?
Well, going into the last few minutes of their playoff game against the Falcons, things were looking one way, and after that game was completely over, things were looking another. Deshaun Shed tore an ACL, pretty bad, non-contact injury on one of the last plays of that game when they were already down quite a few points. And he's not going to be back for the starting game, so they were already kind of thinking they were thin at cornerback. Now they know they are. They didn't just lock up Jeremy Lane, so that helps, but he had a much worse season last year than what we would expect. There's been talk of Sam Shields in the free agency, but I think draft-wise, I think that Cam Robinson would be the best pick if we can have him, if he's on the board.
Late in the first round?
In the first round, yes. And there's been talk of Marlon Humphrey, a cornerback out of Alabama.
Second? Or in the first?
That's a first-rounder as well, yeah.
All right.
And but also the Cam Robinson thing. I don't know too much about offensive tackles, offensive linemen. I trust the general managers to know who to pick. But there's a lot of talk of Garrett Bowles out of Utah, up and coming guy. Heard about him. He wasn't really on the radar before this season, and he really picked it up a lot.
Could be a sleeper.
So he could be, and I don't know that you spend a first rounder on that guy, but someone else might. And then like my long shot miracle, who would I think would be the coolest if they could pick, Jabril Peppers. Guy's incredible, generational talent, in my opinion. A lot of people disagree with that, I'm sure. But I think that'd be the most exciting pick for this team to make.
Oh yeah, what an athlete to add to the already vaunted defense.
And such a versatile guy. I mean, I'm sure you could find a way to transition that guy to a cornerback if he needs to, and especially with what we saw happening after Earl Thomas went out this last season. We need some serious depth at safety, and because while we do have Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas, two of the best in the league, Steven Terrell is just not. I mean, he's just not
up to par.
The whole team falls apart without those two guys. So Jabril Peppers, put him where you need him.
He's almost like a Jalen Ramsey in a way.
Oh yeah,
versatile and athletic.
You do something with him.
Oh yeah,
no matter what.
Okay.
But yeah, what are your thoughts on the Steelers here, Cass? What's the look? What's the outlook? You saying pass rush? You saying probably not offensive line? No, you're wide receiver.
Nope. Well, I have a little bit of a draft. I have a draft kind of wish list right here. I prepared. So in the first round, I think the biggest need is edge rusher, and the Steelers, we picked pass rushing linebackers in the first round. We have a lot of them. I mean, we have Arthur Motes. I don't think he was necessarily a first round pick, but Jarvis Jones was. Bud Dupree. Bud Dupree is now actually becoming really a stud player.
He had a big hit in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, an incredible hit.
Not more. Just about lost his life.
Oh yeah, and you put Bud Dupree on one side, and you just got to wonder about James Harrison on the other. I mean, what a competitor, what a player. But you can't expect James Harrison to produce, unless he's on a snap count. So with that in mind, I want the Steelers to use their late first round pick on a player like maybe Tim Williams, Ryan Anderson, or like Carl Lawson. The dream scenario would be Derek Barnett falling to us. But just a powerful edge rusher, and hopefully with a little bit of speed. I think Tim Williams is probably my favorite out of those three players. You saw him on a snap count at Alabama, but in limited snaps, he really showed what he could do. I think he had the 8th highest pass rushing percentage success rate in all of college last year. Oh yeah, he's a good player.
Impressive.
And then moving on, I think we need a little bit of depth at quarterback. I don't think you can necessarily trust Senkez Golson to be on the field every snap.
No, I don't think you can. I would agree with you on that one.
Oh yeah, maybe a versatile player who can also play at safety, almost like maybe even we pick Jabril Peppers in the first round, and
the Seahawks pass up on him. He
in the
slides to the Steelers. I could see that.
You never know. I mean, a great alternative would be Desmond King or Adoree Jackson. I think Adoree is probably the best bet because what the Steelers are really doing on defense is speed. That's our new identity.
Right.
Speed and operate the zone blitz at a high pace of play. And I think it's going to work well. Provided we get the right players. Other kind of late round needs, we need a QB to groom behind Ben Roethlisberger. I'd like to see that in the third round, like a Brad Kaya.
Really? Third round?
If Brad Kaya drops into the third, that'd be excellent. I want a wide receiver with boundary potential, just in case Martavis Bryant doesn't get his act together. And probably a running back to eventually take D'Angelo Williams' spot. And finally, just a defensive line depth piece. One of the Steelers' biggest problems is Cam Hayward and Stephon Tuitt are just forced to play massive minutes, at each DN spot. I mean, Cam Hayward almost never goes off the field.
Sure.
And when he got injured, it did bad things to the team.
Well, so then what exactly, you're talking about the quarterback here. What do you think the odds are that Ben Roethlisberger doesn't come back this next season? Because there's been talking of this, and as much as we like to joke about it, it's probably not going to happen. It could, and if it does, where's the future of the Steelers looking? I mean, he's not an elite caliber quarterback at this point. It's hard to say that he is.
Definitely not. Not
with these injuries and with the aging, but I don't know where the team goes from there. And is Landry Jones supposed to get better, or do they draft somebody?
Well, short term, it's going to be Landry Jones. But, again, you need to have a guy to groom. I think Roethlisberger will be back next season. I'm pretty confident in that. But even then, you can't really plan for 2 or 3. You can't expect Ben to be under center 2 or 3 years down the line. That's why you need a developmental player, somebody you can pick in the middle or late rounds, just somebody who can pick up the offense. I mean, you saw the Patriots do it with Garoppolo. You saw them do it with Tom Brady. You just need a guy to learn from Ben Roethlisberger and 3 years down the line be ready to step up and take the mantle, because that guy is not Landry Jones.
No, I don't think he is either. And then you're talking on D'Angelo Williams. What kind of a role does he have in the offense at this point? I mean, it seemed like he was just this incredible backup who would be coming in when Le'Veon Bell made some mistake because he was smoking pot in his car or he was twisting his ankle at practice, and puts up great numbers for an old running back, and always a viable fantasy starter. But it's just, what kind of a role does this guy seem like he's going to fill? I mean, or his replacement, I guess. I mean, is it a third? It's not really a third down pass catching back because Le'Veon already fills that role. Is it just a short yardage? I mean, what? It's just a reliever pitcher? What do you think?
Well, we all know that Le'Veon's going to see 25 to 30 touches every single week. So there's not really a whole lot of room for another running back. I mean, Le'Veon is the man in Pittsburgh, and you'll see him get franchise tagged as a result of that. But every once in a while, you need a spell. I mean, D'Angelo Williams will, if he's the number 2, clear number 2 next year, he'll get 5 carries a game just to spell Le'Veon. He'll be there for the blowouts that I hope we consistently have.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
But I don't necessarily think that it's going to be a big role. Now, when Le'Veon needs to get paid and given a huge contract with so much tread on his tires for such a young player, I think the Steelers take a long, hard look at this developmental running back I hope we draft. But
for sure, yeah.
Until that point, maybe they can take a little bit of work from Le'Veon in a good way and make him a little bit more well-rested. I mean, you see sometimes you see him lose a little gas late in games because the Steelers rely on him much.
Totally.
It's not
Bill's
healthy.
Game was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I remember starting him that week in fantasy, actually.
I do remember you starting him that week in fantasy.
Fantastic victory. Now, what about the idea of like a little bowling ball, Mike Tolbert, Garrett Blount? I guess those aren't really the same, but Mike Tolbert's very, very particular type of running back or fullback, I guess. But what about a because Le'Veon does a lot of sitting behind the pile and waiting and then going and then waiting and then going and then twerking around and jumping out of that guy's way and just making plays with his feet. What about a physical running back that can really just bull down on a 3rd and 1 and smash through the pile? Is that a possibility? I mean, is there even a need for that with Le'Veon Bell? I mean, what's the thought?
Well, I think the Steelers love their 3-down running backs, and I think Le'Veon Bell is going to handle pretty much every type of work for the Steelers for the foreseeable future. But, keeping in the kind of size profile of Mike Tolbert, and that's not necessarily the girth or the weight, but the running backs I am, kind of looking at in the mid to late rounds are Donnell Pumphrey and Kareem Hunt, both under 6 feet. Donnell Pumphrey is specifically very small. Mm-hmm. But guys who can be groomed into kind of 3-down niche starters, like a Jonathan Stewart one day.
Right, yeah.
Maybe not a Tolbert, because I think Le'Veon Bell is probably...
No, Tolbert.
I love his patient style, even on short yardage scenarios.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, yeah, he's a great guy to watch.
So, Conklin, tell me this. Do you think Le'Veon Bell is revolutionizing the position the way Steph Curry is revolutionizing basketball?
I do not, Katzman, and I know this is a point of contention between us, because the thing with Le'Veon Bell is the guy's either he's hurt or he's got disciplinary issues going on. I just haven't seen enough out of him. Definitely this year, he was doing things that were fantastical, averaging so many yards per game, just putting up massive amounts of points for the team. The team really put the whole weight of the team was resting on Le'Veon Bell last year.
Yep, he's the man.
And if he can continue to defeat defenses and change the way the other players run the game through his patient running style, then sure, but I just don't think I've seen it yet. I mean, I can't even think of really another running back that does that yet. And as much as it works, this could be something that we catch on to pretty quick, and all of a sudden it's, hey, you're playing against Le'Veon Bell, just give him a second. Make sure you don't overcommit. It could be something that gets snuffed out pretty soon, so we'll see. I just don't think it's early enough. Steph Curry, unbelievable player. He's done so many things for the league, and look, hey, at the end of the day, Le'Veon Bell doesn't have a championship ring. Steph Curry, he does. He
It's
almost
coming.
got two.
It's coming.
Really? You think it's coming? Why is that?
I think when Tom Brady takes a step down and Ben Roethlisberger is hopefully still going strong, I think the Steelers are, really the next man up in the AFC. And I think you'll see that reflected in next season.
No, but what about a team like the Kansas City Chiefs?
Kansas City Chiefs,
Oh,
fantastic team. Andy Reid has done a spectacular job. But Andy Reid is a coach that will get you almost all the way there, but never actually closes the deal. I mean, Andy Reid's clock management is bad, to be honest, Andy. His roster construction,
We saw that.
fantastic. I mean, great coach,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't think you'll ever see him be the reason his team wins a championship. And if not, that team just isn't talented enough with Alex Smith.
Sure. And I will say it always has felt like there was some invisible ceiling for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
I mean, you had the game. You just go back even pretty far here. We go back to the year that my Seahawks won the Super Bowl 2013 season. We saw this team start 9-0 after having a terrible year the year before, and there was so much hype surrounding them. But then they finished the year 11-5 and lose to the Colts after blowing a massive 25, 28 point lead in the playoffs.
Yep.
And then, they just really haven't accomplished much.
Nope, not a whole lot of playoff success.
Good job. You beat the Texans last year. But
That's really not a feather in the cap,
it's,
is it?
it's not much at all, no. And that game was done the minute Niall Davis returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. It's really, there's not a lot that they've done, and I as much as I was throwing them out there, I don't think that they'll be able. There's just something missing with that team. I don't know if it's quarterback. I don't know if it's offensive line. They've got good wide receivers. They've got decent wide receivers in Jeremy Maclin and Tyreek Hill.
Chris Conley,
too, yeah. But Travis Kelce,
Travis Kelce is fantastic. You can make the case for him being the best tight end in the NFL when Gronk was injured.
Oh, sure you could. But I just don't. Yeah. There is something up with that team as far as playing well in the playoffs and down the stretch. And it's, I don't know, they're running out of gas. They just don't have that clutch factor, whatever that may be. I don't know. But one thing I will say to keep in mind, there is a team in the AFC that every AFC team should be worried about, and that would be the Oakland Raiders. Because in the same division, we already have seen a regression from the Broncos. We've seen a significant regression from the Chargers. I don't know where the Chiefs are going to land, but if those Oakland Raiders can get first round bye, maybe number 1 overall seed, depending on how the Patriots and Steelers do, that's a team to watch out for there. Because, I mean, they have just successfully turned that franchise around. Jack Del Rio, great coach.
Mm-hmm.
Balls of steel, too. I mean, just a really unfortunate way they ended the year this last year.
Oh, yeah.
Derek Carr injury, they can go on to Connor Cook after Matt LeBlanc gets hurt. But I wouldn't count them out for a second. What are your thoughts?
On the Raiders?
On the Raiders? Because, I mean, Steelers, you got to watch out, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I will say this. There's not a whole lot of weaknesses to the Oakland Raiders. Now, I think they're getting old in the secondary. I think they made some interesting signings in Sean Smith and Reggie Nelson. Both good players, but veteran guys, kind of on the tail end of their careers. Not necessarily going to be able to stay with Antonio Brown in a matchup. But the defense is led by, the defensive player of the year, Khalil Mack. You can make the case for him being the best all-around player in the NFL. What an edge rusher. And he's so young as well. And Derek Carr is just a gunslinging passer, almost in the mold of Aaron Rodgers, some might say.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he just puts the ball right in a bucket. And if Amari Cooper or Michael Crabtree can clear up their dropping issues, I don't really see a huge weakness to that team. I mean, the offensive line is fantastic, right? And you always see some sort of late-round draft running back just turn out to be a stud. Maybe the Raiders could land him next year.
That could be the weakness right now, I'd say, is the running back. Just
Latavius Murray.
Not a fantastic player.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Richard, decent, good for sneaky long run plays. And
yep. DeAndre Washington's the same way.
Too, but I wouldn't, they definitely. But you got to give them props, though. I mean,
oh, yeah.
Turn that thing around quick.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you saw what they did to the Broncos.
Oh, totally.
With the rushing attack.
Oh, just great, just fantastic stuff out of that.
Yeah.
Gotta love the Oakland Raiders, though. Just coming from such a bad team, and if you feel bad if they actually do move to Las Vegas, because I mean
that would not be good.
Not be good at all. No. Fans love them down there. Fans love them all over the West Coast.
Oh, the Black Hole is just a crazy place.
It stretches all the way up and down the coast. Back home in Seattle, you go to Buffalo Wild Wings, and there's a game on for the Raiders, and you've got biker gangs just filling that place up. It's the whole West Coast. Everyone is obsessed with the Raiders. All right, moving on. Katzman, in general here, NFC, we've got some interesting stuff going on, actually. The Eagles are looking for talent at wide receiver. There's talks of Deshaun Jackson or Pierre Garçon, maybe even Kenny Stills. What are your thoughts on the Eagles? Just like a quick sampling here, because that's one of those weird teams that's in the middle where they could, in the next few years, get really good, or they could get really bad.
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen with them.
Well, I think the one thing that'll be a constant is the defense, led by, I think one of the best defensive tackles / DNs in the NFL is Fletcher Cox.
Great player.
That guy shows up every Sunday unless he's playing Zach Martin. But
Sure.
if they can get Carson Wentz some weapons, I think Carson Wentz has the potential to be a pretty solid passer in the NFL. Not necessarily a superstar, but definitely a solid starting quarterback. Now, whether they made the right move mortgaging their future and sticking it on Carson Wentz's shoulders, that is yet to be seen. But I think the team can make some noise in the NFC some way down the road. Maybe they add a little bit of receiving talent. Maybe they get a healthy running back for a year. You just never know. Maybe they clean up their issues in the secondary as well with the blown coverages. I mean, Malcolm Jenkins, we all know, is a fantastic player as well. They have a lot of talent. Just need to put it together.
Yeah, took a big risk on Byron Maxwell a few years ago.
Yep. Not necessarily paid off.
No, a lot of players didn't work out for them, but I think it'd be fantastic to see a Deshaun Jackson return to Philly.
Oh, yeah.
New head coach, new resurgent team, leads them, I don't know, he's a nice 1,000-yard season.
Oh, yeah.
That would be the coolest thing, in my opinion.
Deshaun Jackson on the Eagles is one of my favorite players to watch in the NFL. Him and LaShawn McCoy were just absolutely swift.
Oh, yeah. It's a shame that Chip Kelly had to go in there and just ruin that whole organization.
Oh, my God.
Just decimated that team. Lost Jeremy Maclin, lost all those guys.
Yep.
Couldn't do anything for him.
Oh, yeah. So, got DeMarco Murray, who just did not fit in their rushing scheme. That was the real miss. And you saw how talented a player he was this season in Tennessee.
Oh, yeah. Still a great guy. Just doesn't work with... Did not work with the Eagles offense. So what's going on in the AFC? I mean, it's the offseason now. We're kind of in that weird dead zone between free agency, the draft, and the regular season and last season. I mean, there's a bit of news, I'm sure. Obviously one of the main topics is where's Romo going?
Where is Romo going?
That's kind of a generational topic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you could see a lot of destinations. You could see him go to the Jets. You could see him go to the Broncos, which is where I hear he wants to go.
That'd be
a
cool one.
Would be quite a team.
That'd be an interesting, yeah.
People forget that Tony Romo is still a pretty spectacular player. I mean, an absolute wizard in the pocket. Like
Totally.
The pocket moving, the presence in there.
Oh, yeah.
Spectacular. Probably the best quarterback spin move I've ever seen.
I've even heard talks of Dallas keeping him on for a $7 million a year contract as
Really?
a backup. But I don't think that'll happen because Dallas is kind of making that championship push, and they need to put
assets on the field.
everything down to the field. But
Yep.
you never know. Tony Romo, Jerry Jones got a hard on for him. Maybe they'll keep him in there. But I think it'd be neat. There's talks of him going to the Bears, going to the 49ers.
Well, I think Jay Cutler has no future in the Windy City.
No, and I don't.
I hope he doesn't have a future in the Windy City for their sake.
I don't even. Who's going to sign Jay Cutler this year?
A very, very quarterback desperate team. I think maybe if he goes for a really low salary, you could see the Texans fit him in somewhere to get competition with Brock Osweiler. That's just a shot in the moon.
That would be a good option, I think. I mean, please, anyone other than Brock Osweiler. We give him a lot of crap, and for good reason. I mean, that guy's just... You remember
Not
that?
worth the contract.
The fumble player where the incomplete pass he had where he just took his arm back,
Yep.
brought it forward, and just slipped the ball out.
Jameis Winston-esque.
It was just awful. It
Yeah.
was just awful. It didn't make any sense. Guy looks terrible, and they're paying so much money for him, and they're stuck with him. So, yeah, why not get a guy who's a cheaper option at a lower level of play that I think you could get to compete with Brock, maybe put a little fire under his ass, get him really trying to, earn his stripes out there. But, just a hard team to watch.
Oh, yeah. It's the running game and the short passing. I mean, Lamar Miller, went to Houston to get more carries and be unleashed in an offense. I mean, you saw what the problems with his time with Joe Philbin and the Dolphins. He's a spectacular player. They just wouldn't give him the carries.
Wow.
So he goes to Houston, gets the carries, but the problem is they have no vertical offense despite having probably one of the top 5 wide receiver duos in the NFL. There's just no space for the guy.
Yeah, and don't even forget, they've got other guys, Jalen Strong.
Jalen Strong, fantastic player. First-round pick, right?
Hasn't done anything for him.
No.
Really. No.
But you saw his talent on the Hail Mary.
Oh, totally.
This season.
Totally. Great talent, but they just, either they haven't been able to use him or something. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
A few years, see where he goes.
And don't forget Braxton Miller waiting in the wings as well.
He's a fantastic player, too. It's all up in the air.
Mm-hmm.
And just a general question here, Captain. What's the overall? What's the news with the Steelers? Obviously there's the Big Ben stuff.
Big Ben stuff and the Antonio Brown contract situation.
Sure. Explain that to me. I'm not really in my Steelers loop, my little Pittsburgh circle. I'm a little, I'm an informed guy, but I don't really follow the Steelers. It's, what's the Antonio Brown? Because they're going to franchise tag on Le'Veon, right?
Oh, yeah.
Most likely the plan.
The franchise tag will be on Le'Veon Bell for next season. Can't let him go. And I think Antonio Brown will get a long-term deal as well. He deserves it. He wants to be a Steeler for life. I think Mike Tomlin, Art Rooney, they've forgiven him for the locker room Facebook Live incident.
Bit of a disaster, yeah.
I'll give you that. It wasn't the best look for Steeler Nation, but, you can make a pretty convincing case for Antonio Brown being the best wide receiver in the NFL. Something we should debate in a second.
Oh, yeah.
But the guy needs to be a Steeler for the foreseeable future. And he was drafted by the Steelers. By the way, what a spectacular pick by the GM, by the front office. But he'll be a Steeler next year. And I think Ben Roethlisberger will be the same. And I think you'll see Antonio Brown get a long-term contract sooner rather than later. You saw the Steelers restructure his contract, in a gesture of good faith that you don't really see a lot from the franchise. I think they want him around.
Yeah, I remember a few years ago when Emmanuel Sanders was on the Steelers, and he left, and Antonio Brown was mad because the deal was, we're sticking here, we're doing it here, we're making it here, and there's a little bit of karma there. Aside from, I guess Emmanuel Sanders did win a Super Bowl. I forget that such an odd team to be winning, but they did win a Super Bowl. But his numbers haven't been necessarily as good as they could have been, and I'm sure if he was on the Steelers, they would have been much better.
Oh yeah, you see Martavis Bryant getting those numbers nowadays, unless he's
of course
suspended
for drug problems.
Yeah, but when he's healthy, 6'5", 4'4" freak.
Great fourth rounder too, right? He was fourth,
second or third.
Third, okay. Well,
but still, not a first round guy.
No, not a first rounder, and not a guy anyone thought would be coming on as quickly as he did. I don't think.
Yeah.
Definitely, yeah. Well, and as far as Antonio Brown, it's a draft position. He's very obviously fantastic pick, but there is one player in this league that was such an incredible late round pick that I don't think until he retires we're not going to be able to talk about good picks. And you think I'm going to say Russell Wilson, but I'm saying Tom Brady.
Tom Brady.
I think it goes without saying.
The best late round pick of all time.
The best pick of all time.
Oh, easily. And then, he's the best quarterback of all time.
Which just happens to be the best late round pick.
It's incredible.
Sometimes you forget that guy was just coming out of the University of Michigan and just really slipped under the radar. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Look at him. For his time, he was essentially a prototypical passer. 6'4", see over his line, beautiful mechanics.
Yeah, good guy. He was sitting behind Drew Bledsoe, I believe, and then guy goes down with an injury. They throw Brady in there, and all of a sudden, over a few years, they've got a incredible quarterback who develops more and more until that 2007 season where he could have established himself. Can you imagine where we'd be right now if he had won against the Giants that year and the other year, 7-0 in Super Bowls, had the undefeated season? Of course, all of time and everything would be different then, but can you even imagine?
No.
Thank God for the Giants keeping him out of that, because that would just... we'd never hear the end of it from guys like Scott. It would just be on and on and on. Patriots the best ever. Which, right now, they could be. They keep it up, they will be. But
I think you can probably make a convincing case for them being the best dynasty of all time.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
The only team at the dynastic team that I would take over the Patriots would probably be the San Francisco 49ers with I believe Joe Montana or Steve Young. I
Yeah.
mean, they had prime time.
Well, it's
Jerry
hard,
Rice.
it's hard to say because do you consider the Packers winning 5 of 7 before the NFL was a thing? Technically, I mean, they won the first 2 Super Bowls, and then they won the NFC. The NFL is in the National Football League before it was a merge, or
Yeah.
before, we had all the AFC teams as well. I mean, they won 5 of 7, so that was
Yeah.
that's
Incredible
where we get the Vince
dynasty.
Lombardi Trophy, all that.
Yep. And the Steelers teams
Steelers
of yonder
teams as
year
well,
with
yeah.
the Iron Curtain. Or Steel Curtain.
Steel
Not the Iron Curtain.
Steel Curtain, fantastic defense.
But I mean, I definitely think you put the Patriots up with those guys. I mean, those are probably the 4
Oh yes,
the 4 dynasties.
yeah, and the Cowboys, hell.
Oh, and the Cowboys, yeah.
Cowboys won 3 of 4.
Yeah, with
Three,
the 3.
and the Patriots did that too, but a few years later with kind of they essentially not even essentially core same pieces, but Brady and Belichick, you go on and you win 2 in 3 years, and it's just like this is unbelievable.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so my side of the what do you call it? I guess the United States, really opposite side. Oh, every team's opposite side of the Seahawks, but
Yep.
Michael Bennett, interesting statement coming out saying he will not be traveling to Israel with the NFL. What are your thoughts on that? Because I'm not gonna lie, I'm not as educated on the topic of the Middle East as I particularly wish I was. But as a Jewish man yourself, I'm sure you can give me some great insight on Michael Bennett not traveling to Israel.
Well, I don't think I have any inside facts here, but I will say this. I mean, Michael Bennett's always been a political guy. I mean, he's going to make a statement here, and
That's true.
I'm not going to sit here and say Israel's the safest place in the world, because
Probably not. No.
I don't think it's even. You certainly can't blame the guy.
Yeah, but yeah, there's been some quite a bit of controversy over the Palestinians and such, and Michael Bennett speaks his mind and acts on it as well. Apparently.
Both Bennett brothers.
Uh-huh.
Martellis want to do the
And
same.
how can we not talk about Blair Walsh? Probably my favorite offseason move so far. The best thing I think that I've seen in a long time. The guy just goes out there against my Seattle Seahawks in the playoffs. He's drilled 3 straight field goals. They were awesome. It was cold as hell. I don't know how he did it. And then what happens? What's his name? Jeff Locke gets that ball, gives him the laces. Bad. Never give the kicker the laces. And he shanks it.
A little Jay Feely action there.
I felt so bad for that guy.
Oh, yeah.
And his season continued to struggle the next year. And then he gets cut. And now what's he get? An opportunity at redemption. Nowhere else but in Seattle. I think it's perfect. What do you think?
I look forward to him missing a 27-yard field goal with your team 1 point down in the final seconds.
If he does do that, we should drop him and someone else should pick him up. Whatever team we lose that game to, then needs to acquire him, and he needs to do it to someone else. Because that is really the only way. Unless it was Minnesota. If it's Minnesota, then we've completed the loop. And then
That would be incredible.
time is fixed upon itself. But
Yeah.
Blair Walsh and Steven Aushka not having a great year last year. I think it's great to either put a little competition in there or get somebody new in there, because we all loved Steven Aushka for so long. But it's the NFL, teams change.
Yeah.
Chip Theseus.
So do you think
Everything moves.
Hauschka will get beaten out?
He could. Blair Walsh isn't as bad as people give him credit for.
No, definitely not.
think
Just
at
the
all.
defining moment of his career
Yeah.
was a low light.
Yeah, and he has had this whole, he's had an extended offseason, definitely, which for a kicker doesn't really mean that much, I don't think, just because you're really not putting your body on the line like any of these other players are, but it could help. I don't know. He's younger. I think he's a better kicker as it stands right now, and I'm excited to see him join the Seahawks, because, hey, any cheap kicker that can get the job done,
Yep.
all for it.
All right. I mentioned it earlier, but I think we should close out on a pretty important discussion over whether Antonio Brown is actually the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Receiver in the league.
That's kind of the hot topic right now. You see Julio Jones You saw what he did in the Super Bowl, that incredible catch on the sideline that everybody's going to forget.
Oh, totally. Yeah, no, right up there with my Jermaine catch. Fumble in the air, drop it down to his knees, bounce all over his body catch.
The pure luck catch.
Oh, well, it's just persistence involved, and he didn't give up on that ball, and he came down with it and had just the opportunity there to win the Super Bowl, but did not. Yes, Julio Jones, I still think, deserves best wide receiver in the NFL. He didn't do anything wrong in that Super Bowl.
No, nothing at all.
He did everything right. He played his heart out, and
carried his team, really.
I mean, I cannot understand why Dan Quinn, after being part of the team, the Seattle Seahawks team, my Seattle Seahawks team that decided to throw on the 1 yard line, throwing towards the end of the game when you don't need to throw, just unnecessarily throwing the ball. He didn't need to drop back into the pocket with Matt Ryan, risk a flag, risk a sack, risk so many things so that you can. I mean, what really? Why? What? Don't get cocky. This is the Patriots. Yeah. Run the ball 3 times, kick a field goal, go up by 10, get the onside kick recovery. You had the Super Bowl in your hands. I think that was it, and so I don't think that. I think everything rests on that. Julio Jones is not to blame at all. Still the best wide receiver in the NFL.
Size and strength you'll see nowhere else.
The only point that I would give Antonio Brown the serious nod in, and that could, over the next season, because it really comes down to those two, let's not kid ourselves. The only way, though, that I could really see Antonio Brown overtaking Julio Jones is if Julio Jones has another injury problem next year, and if he misses even somewhere around 4 games, and Antonio Brown plays all 16, then I think you've got a matter of consistency, and you've got because that's an important part of the NFL. Is are you able to suit up on
every
Sunday
week
and go out there and play? Because if you got some fragile little feet there, getting that turf toe, didn't appreciate that in my other fantasy league, by the way. Then hey, I don't know that you are the best.
Well, I mean, Julio, to his credit, has played through a lot of the injuries that kind of dogged him throughout his career. But I think consistency is really Antonio Brown's strong suit. I mean, I think most receptions over a 4-year span in NFL history. I mean, you'll see the guy in Canton, and I think he's going to make a pretty legitimate argument for one of the best 5 or 6 year stretches from a receiver in the NFL.
Terrell Davis can get in after 7 seasons.
Yep,
easy. Bar solo with the Hall of Fame.
Really? But you think?
Oh,
T.O. deserved to get in, or?
Oh, he should, but not first. Not Terrell.
Not first ballot.
Not first ballot. No. Not
wow, I think T.O. is one of the top 5 receivers of all time. I think he's
he's
unanimous
great,
vote.
Skip Bayless put it great that he wrecked some franchises, and as far as what did he do for the teams he played for? A lot of teams, he did some negative things.
I mean, yes. I mean, people forget that, like, for instance, Lawrence Taylor, who is often looked at as one of the arguably the greatest defensive player of all time. People forget that Lawrence Taylor had some crazy off the field moments, some crazy off the field concerns that didn't really hurt him. And I think he was a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Well, I mean, you've got your Michael Irvins who are doing crack cocaine or whatever it is, and prostitutes and hookers and all that. That's bad. That's really bad. It's distracting. It's bad. But he's not getting into fights with the guys in the locker room. He's not getting into, the infamous video where Terrell Owens has the football, runs out to the star, the Dallas field, smacks it down in the middle, and just gets wiped out by some guy. It
was incredible.
But that just leads to higher tensions. The guy thinks he's the best. The guy's getting cocky. It's just I don't think that's first ballot.
And it happened every stop of the way of his career.
Not first ballot stuff, in my opinion.
No, but definitely a first ballot talent.
Talent, yes, but I don't think he should be in. All right, quickly whip around all of sports. Trailblazers, NBA. First 3 actually first round picks now. Cleveland gave them one, so that's essentially probably going to be like a really early second rounder. We'll see where they land. But just acquired one for trading away Mason Plumlee, who I didn't think was, that's not the greatest loss. Averaging 11 points, 8 rebounds, but I didn't.
Fantastic passing center. Certainly lose a lot of your offense with that.
I mean, look, we're 1 game behind the Nuggets for the 8th seed of the playoffs. Not making it a run this year. Ironically enough, we traded him to the Nuggets. I don't know that you need to be in the playoffs even. I mean, yes, it'd be great to go to the playoffs and play against like the Warriors or someone, but Blazers are not a good team this year. Not making a run, but that's my team, and that's the little insight I got for you there.
Mm-hmm. And I guess I'll give you the other end of the spectrum in the
Toronto Raptors.
Eastern Conference. Yep.
Let's see what the Toronto Raptors are up to.
Well, the Toronto Raptors are in the midst of one of the most efficient offensive seasons in NFL or NBA history. I mean, you see DeMar DeRozan, things he's doing as a really unique shooting guard.
Sure.
And the Raptors are really poised to make a run. Now, whether they can take the next step and actually challenge the Cavaliers, doubtful. But we're no longer in the, in kind of the getting swept by the Nets, or no, not getting swept by the Nets, but getting swept by the Wizards or losing to the Nets, stage of our team development.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think that maybe, put up a fight with the Cavaliers a little more. I don't think they're Cavalier level, but I think that they're getting better. And I don't know much about the NBA. I don't follow basketball too heavily, just because it's such an odd sport with all the. You got 5 guys on the court at a time, and it's just those 5 dudes. But I could definitely see some improvements there. So that's all we got for you today, folks. This has been Ben Squared.